Be an appropriate time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite the senators from Darlington and Calhoun to join me up here. Mr. President.
Senator from York, Senator Climer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, there's no sugarcoating the situation that our state is in right now with regard to our agricultural economy. It is in absolute crisis right now. We've distributed this document. Many of you, I hope, got it in your offices or on your way out the door on Thursday. We can pass it around again later today. Our row croppers, net of all governmental support, net of everything, over the last 2 years have experienced over $700 million in crop losses. Some of this is a function of structural economic trends. Some of this is a function of weather. Regardless, it has happened. And our family farms across this state are in crisis. We are on the precipice of a collapse of small family farms across the entirety of our state. It's real. It's not hyperbole. It is happening. And as we get into our budget debate later today, tomorrow, and Thursday, the group up here, and with many of you who are not yet up at the well, we will present you with some ideas for how we can salvage as many of these small family farms as possible. We are an agrarian state. We always have been. It is core to our culture. It is who we are. We risk losing that in a significant way if the state government does not intercede. And to those of you who are worried about the trajectory of growth across our state, to those of you who are concerned with the massive influx of population and the sort of negative externalities associated with that, if you really want to put the brakes on that, the best thing you can do is to help make farming profitable again. Because when that developer comes and knocks on the farmer's door, and he doesn't have enough money to plant this year's crop, knows that if he puts it in the ground, he's going to lose money on it. It's a very different answer under those circumstances than when the farm is healthy and productive. And I'll yield now to any of my fellow senators who wish to discuss further on this subject.
Senator from Calhoun is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I certainly appreciate the remarks from the chairman of agriculture, and obviously just want to stand up here before you today and reiterate some of that. You know, as someone who is, I look around the room and I see a lot of folks that are tied to agriculture in some form or fashion, and I'm certainly one of those. Many of you know that grew up on the farm, still farm with my family today, and I think I just want to reiterate what Chairman of Ag just said about this. Look, nobody likes to be able to have to come and tell a story of an entire industry kind of on the brink, if that makes sense to you, and ultimately try to paint the picture to have your hands out and ask for a little bit of help. But I'm certainly doing that today on behalf of all of our farmers across the state of South Carolina. As the chairman said, this is real. And it's a lot of things converging. We could stand up here all day and debate why we are in the position that we're currently in. There's a lot of different thoughts on that, but we're here nonetheless. As I think about Senator Chapman behind me, it's certainly been exacerbated by unfortunate weather conditions that we've been facing. Haven't had any rain to speak of really across the state, and probably coming on close to a month now. So a lot of folks that typically would have planted a lot more corn this year have quit planting weeks ago. There's no moisture to get it up. Some people would contend that that's going to end up saving them money by not planting the corn. Because as I've continued to look at it over and over, none of it pencils out to a profit. As far as the commodity crops, many of you know, when I say commodity crops, I'm talking about crops that are priced Chicago boards. As you know, farmers don't get to say, I'm going to sell a bushel of my corn for anything other than what that bushel of corn is actually going for. Same with cotton, same with any of our other commodity crops. And that's what's unfortunate. I've often said I don't know of another business model across history or the country where you got folks that are buying at wholesale input costs, buying at retail rates, and then turning around and selling the products that they are producing at wholesale rates. That is completely backwards, but that's what farmers have to do each and every year. And just to reiterate where we are, I was with JD or Senator Chapman and I were doing some research just a second ago. In 1990, it cost about $400, give or take, to produce an acre of cotton.
The senator from York, Senator Climer's time has expired. Senator from Spartanburg, Senator Martin, what purpose do you rise?
I was watching the clock and was already risen to request an additional 5 minutes for them.
Is there objection to the unanimous consent request for an additional 5 minutes? Hear no objection.
Certainly
So
appreciate the senator from Spartanburg. Thank you, Mr. President. In 1990, it cost about $400 to grow an acre of cotton. In 2026, it's going to cost roughly $1,000 per acre to grow an acre of cotton. We were looking at the numbers. Cotton right now is basically selling today in 2026 for essentially the same amount of money that it sold for in 1990. We're call it 70 cents per pound. That's pretty much where we are. So we have more than doubled the production cost, and we've stayed at the same level over the course of the last 36 years. We're at the same spot. For corn, mid-90s, you're looking at about $4.65 per bushel. I think we priced it a little while ago. We're right at that same amount. Whereas, at that same time period, for an acre of corn, it would cost you around $200 to $250 to grow that acre of corn. And right now, today, it costs you about $900 to grow that same acre of corn. So, you put all of that together, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why this is real. There's nothing that we can do up here this week that is absolutely going to save everyone. There are going to be farmers in your communities that go out of business this year. That is the sad reality of where we are. But I agree, we need to do everything that we can to try to save as many of them as we possibly can. Not save them. Let me take that back. This is to try to provide a bridge to get them to next year. That's all we can hope for. And hope then that macroeconomics, conditions around the world, the price of fertilizer, the cost of seed, hopefully someone at the federal level acknowledges that we are in a global economy and that we are dependent upon people buying the products that the United States produces. Hopefully we can get to that point very soon. I would just simply ask that you consider trying to help some folks hold on as long as we possibly can. Thank you, Mr.
Senator from
President.
Charleston, Senator Campson, what purpose do you rise, sir?
Would the senator from Calhoun yield?
For a question, Senator yields for a question.
Happy to, Mr. President.
Did you know, I'm aware of this problem because I've been trying to plant food plots that aren't growing too well, number one. But number two, I just planted pine trees in the winter when you need to plant pine trees, when you do a clear cut and you replant. And those trees aren't, the saplings, they aren't dead yet, but I think they're going to die. I think, so you have the timber, the point I'm making is, did you know, the timber industry is in a crisis too, if they've planted saplings this past winter. because there's been no rain, well, I don't know, a month and a half or 2 months, something like that. This is dry as I've ever seen it.
You're right, and that's also coupled with the lack of demand for wood products currently. We've had multiple mills, as you know, across the state of South Carolina that have closed. We've got opportunities, though. There's new technology out there that hopefully, you know, that we'll invest in or help those entrepreneurs that want to invest in new technology that could be coupled together to help both the timber industry and the agricultural industry. The row crop guys, price of diesel fuel is one of the things that is really holding a lot of farmers back right now. We can make diesel fuel, we can make biodiesel out of the wood that's in the state of South Carolina.
But, so would you be amicable to providing in your budget proviso, your budget amendment, including loss of planted, if you planted saplings and you're in the forestry industry, having them be able to use this relief as well?
I guess, Senator, I think that we have to consider everything. I'm certainly not saying no. I think, unfortunately, just like we have to do every year with the budget, we're going to have to make hard decisions with where our priorities lie. Yes, I think that the timber industry and the ag industry right now need to be at the top of our priority list. Because as the chairman said a little while ago, if a farmer, if a landowner is not able to make money off of that land, then odds are they're going to sell it. And then there's going to be tract homes on that land.
You're going to grow rooftops instead of...
Senator, the additional 5 minutes has expired. Senator from Horry, Senator Rankin, what purpose do you raise?
Unanimous consent for 30 more seconds for the response and no more time for the questions from the senator from Charleston.
Is the objection?
I'll amend that.
Objection is heard.
I'll amend that. 3 minutes for this exchange, and perhaps others who may want to have a quicker question and quicker answer of someone else.
Is there objection to the additional 3 minutes? Here, no
If it makes you feel any better, Senator, I thought he was coming at me with the limit on the time to talk, but you know, that's it. I agree with you 100%. I don't have any problem. I don't think anybody has any problem with trying to also give attention. But, you know, look, there's lots of different crops that are being grown. There's specialty crops. There's fruits, vegetables. There's timber. I don't know what we can do or if we can for everyone. And I certainly can't make that decision independently, but I would just ask this body to give it the level of attention that I believe that it needs to try to come up with some solutions.
Well, the timber industry, as you know, is in crisis mode, and this drought is even affecting that. It's the first year that I've ever really seen that, but it is affecting that, and I think we ought to consider that as well.
Thank you. Senator from Horry, Senator Rankin, what purpose do you raise, sir?
See if I could ask a question of the senator, of the chairman of the committee real quick.
Senator from York, Senator Climer.
And I apologize, Senator, I didn't get up soon enough to ask you a question, but no disrespect, but I have heard that this ask will approach $1 billion. Or do you have a definition of what amount that you are asking for or will be come time for this proviso? And if you don't, that's okay. But I'm trying to define, as you're early on announcing this effort, do we have...
I'm instructed by the senator from Calhoun that we'd happily meet you in the middle, but even that, even meeting you in the middle far exceeds where we are right now at the
relief
at the current stage.
Okay, but again, so help me define it. What is the amount you're thinking that y'all will be asking for, or is that undefined at this point?
The federal government has offered crop support to the tune of roughly $70 million.
For South Carolina?
For South Carolina, yeah.
All right.
And, or at least that's roughly what South Carolina producers have received. And so our aim is to match that 50 cents on the dollar.
Okay. And you will, have we ever done that before where South Carolina has upped the ante? Again, harken back where we had to fight the Governor Haley, to take the federal money, which we ultimately did. But have we ever, as a state, upped the ante to get additional relief that the federal government has allocated?
I don't recall from my time in the Senate, but your service preceded mine.
And I don't either. And if we're not able to do that this go round, again, not foretelling what this debate will be, when we get a new congressman from maybe your part of the world, I hope next year it will be $140 million for South Carolina.
And thank you, Senator from Horry. And I'm desperate to yield to my colleague, the Senator from Darlington, who has been very patient in waiting to take the well.
Well, yeah, well, the time is, the additional 3 minutes has expired. You would. Senator from Kershaw, what purpose do you have?
Consent for them to have 3 more minutes on the topic for Senator from Darlington. 5, if that's what you want, Mr. President.
We'll do the 3. Is there objection to 3 minutes? There's no objection. So ordered. Senator from Darlington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take this opportunity to focus on something else that the agricultural community is dealing with at this exact same time. Growing up, I used to hear horror stories about what went down in the 80s, what went down on the farm back when interest rates were sky high. And I'm being told by several of my colleagues in the agriculture industry what we're facing right now, what we are looking and going through right now is worse than what they faced in the 80s. Farm Bureau has a hotline where farmers can call for mental health issues. As I'm sure many of y'all know, suicide among the agricultural community is one of the highest of any occupation. Years of living out by yourself in isolation, combined with the stress of generational farms being stacked on top of you, are you going to be the one that loses it for your son after you have inherited it and passed it on? That hotline is being blown up right now, seeing more activity than it has ever received. A lot of people in my industry are finding out that right now they are literally worth more dead than alive. I've heard several stories about my father's friends in the 80s and some of the terrible things they did. And I am honestly concerned every time my phone rings that I'm going to be getting a phone call about a friend of mine who has done the same thing. It's hard. It's very difficult what's going on in our industry right now. I know it's easy to stand up here and give numbers and say, this is what we need, this will fix it. Well, it's going to be a whole lot more than numbers is needed to fix it. It's going to take a lot. What is that answer? I cannot honestly stand here and tell you exactly this is what we need to do to fix it. But I can tell you something we desperately need, and that is time. We need time to be able to fix it, and right now, the clock is out. As you've heard the President say many times up here, that's time. We've ran out. Unanimous consent for some more time? Well, I promise you, there's no unanimous consent for more time from a bank. There's no unanimous consent for more time to let it rain. There's no unanimous consent for more time to allow